So the story is, number one, Beal and Booker, they look good, they get it done. The second story is what's going to happen to Draymond Green now. It was staggering to see. I think we're all kind of asking ourselves, is this going to happen again? What is your first thought when you see that with Draymond and Nurkic?
Well, a lot of things. First of all, it's disappointing because this team has struggled. And this team is trying to figure it out. They're 4-10 in the last, going into this game, the last 14 games. They need Draymond on the court. They need his defense. They need his leadership. They need the confidence and the swagger he brings to the team. But they don't need this, because this will ultimately lead to a suspension. And considering his track record and considering what's transpired this year, he may be more than 5 games in terms of, compared to what he had before. And so you dig in a hole and you seem to not be able to get out of that hole. And, he's got to use better judgment in that situation. He is too important and too valuable to this team. And this is a team that's had great success, and they're getting older. And they're still fighting to stay in the mix, but we're seeing a decline here. And let's just be honest. And we know Charles has talked about it.
Sure.
And maybe some of that is lashing out. That lashing out is frustration, because you can see the writing on the wall. I'm only speculating and saying that, but this can't happen. A month from when the last incident happened, and I expect it'll be, some serious time missed for Draymond.
Again, this Warriors team started 6-2. They're 4-11 since. And now I'm realizing tonight was a microcosm of that struggle. Draymond, ejection, Klay Thompson, 7 points on 2 of 10 shooting. This was carried. The Warriors were only in this game because of that bench. How do you figure out the Draymond piece, but also the Klay Thompson piece?
I mean,
he wasn't in there in crunch time.
No, he was not in their crunch time, and that was my question off air. Is like, what do you do right now with Klay? What happens? And I think the Warriors of old is not there. And I think you add Chris Paul now, it changes how their offense is run. At one point, Steph was the point guard, Klay's coming off of those screens. Now, that's not the case. CP is pretty much doing that now. Steph and Klay,
off the screen,
either one or the other. So it's just changed their offense. They're struggling, so on and so forth. So I don't know. I don't know what happens here. I agree with you. Draymond will more than likely get more than 5 games because of the recent history.
Right.
But they need him. They need his voice. They need his voice on the offensive and defensive end. I don't know. You can't make those mistakes.
A loss for word makes sense at this point.
I love Draymond to death, but to be honest with you, there's no place for that in the game. Like, I was looking to see what Nurkic did to warrant that. And it was a normal defensive play.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like there was some, that from what we see, it wasn't like there was something else that happened that, kind of warranted that. So I don't think there's a place for it in the game. Obviously, I think a suspension's coming. But as the Warriors, you look at them, they're not the same Warriors they were, but everybody else has gotten better. The Warriors were the king of randomness. They didn't need plays. They needed IQ in the way they played and their shot making. It made things great for everybody else, where other teams have took a page out of that book, but they're younger and they're hungry. You know what I mean, as well. So their room for error is like this now, when it was a wide margin. And I think that's what's kind of
But the question
the
is,
well.
I think, is how do you get Klay out of this slump? Because right at this point, he's so important to the success.
Klay used to be able to get separation, to get open. Now, some of it, I think, Jamal, to your point, it was how they played. They played fast. They got up and down. There was pace that the way they moved in the half court. A lot of stuff now with Klay, like, he's not open. He doesn't have that kind of separation. Every shot is a difficult contested shot. And so, they've gotten older. And, you bring in Chris Paul, who's been fantastic and has played off the bench, has started, has been a number of things, but they're slower. They don't get up and down. They don't play with that same pace. The second unit actually plays with that pace.
I was going to ask you that. Would you bring him off the bench to have him go against second unit guys, to have him get some easy baskets and get in rhythm that way?
Feature him a little more.
Yes, and feature him where he's the number 1 guy on the second unit.
Look, one of the hardest things, and I guess I did it, Vince did it. When you've been at a certain level, and you've been at an elite all-star level, and then Father Time catches up, can you humble yourself to transform your game? Are you willing to now not be that guy, but still be a productive guy for your ball club? Now, and that may be where Klay is trying to figure out and making that transition. Look, I think he had 5 20-point games in the last 10 games, including to tonight. So he has picked up his scoring from the early part of the season, but he just can't consistently do it day in and day out. And, Father, not everybody can be LeBron James, and I say that, respectfully, that he's still doing it at a high level at his age. But, the problem is he's not defending like he used to, and maybe because of the injuries, that was an area where he had value. And then he's not offensively, if he's not catching and shooting and making shots, he's not giving you as much or as what you need out there on the court on that side of the ball.